If you've ever been interested in a behind-the-scenes look into one of our hosts' lives and backgrounds, we have a really special treat for you because we have a special guest. I'm actually turning the tables on your host, Robyn Zimmerman, for today's Talk of the Town. I'm Jessa Jeremiah, and I'm so glad to have you in the guest seat, Robyn.
Thank you, Jessa. And Jessa is our general manager, so you've been with us a month, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. That's very kind. As are you. I've been watching you for a long time. You're wonderful. It's so engaging to have you, the way that you interact with your guests and the questions that you ask. And that is part of your personality, but it's also part of your background. You have a really robust media experience. I want to share with our viewers a little bit about it.
Well, I was thinking about that actually yesterday. I really began my career in Michigan 50 years ago. In 1972, I was a high school teacher, majored in those days, speech communications. But that foundation, that education took me in a lot of different directions. So started high school, then I got in South Carolina, upstate South Carolina. I started working at a TV station, in the early 80s. It took me to Tucson. I was a weather girl. So in those days, you didn't have to be a meteorologist. Then I moved back in the 80s to Columbia, South Carolina, got involved with the state, worked at public broadcasting, then got involved with some state agencies, worked in the governor's office as press secretary, and then really finished my formal career in Greenville with a hospital system. But as I tell, and I taught community college for years, I tell my students, you have a good foundation and then just take some risks and it'll take you in a lot of different directions. So I've been very blessed, and then now I'm here with you all.
Such an impressive career path. In fact, this is the reason I wanted to do this interview today, Robyn, is learning about, where you began, how your career evolved and developed over the years at every level has just been so interesting to me to hear about. And so I'm so glad that you're willing to share it with our viewers. And somehow, by some stroke of luck on our part, it landed you here at WHHI. And I'm curious how you got involved here.
Well, in 2018, when my husband and I moved to Hilton Head, I have a daughter that teaches at the high school and grandchildren. One of Amber's friends said, there's a local television station. Why don't maybe you could, do something there. So I emailed Wayne Morris, who was, general manager then, and just said, I offer my services. I could report on events, whatever. Because even though I'm officially retired, I love to stay active and involved, and I love meeting people. So it kind of started out there, and then that developed into other opportunities with the station, with the Beaufort News, north of the Broad, and now Talk of the Town. So it has been a blessing because I love meeting people. I love learning about events, the nonprofits, new businesses in town. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you are able to wear so many hats really here because, of course, our viewers see you as a talk show host here on Talk of the Town, and then you're able to cover such wonderful news stories on the Beaufort News, and you really have a wide variety of things that you're able to do. What they don't see, though, is how great you are behind the scenes, and I've had an opportunity to experience that, the warmth that you bring into your guests, making them feel comfortable, helping, really develop the conversation. And that's special that you have. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Actually, we just had a couple of guests, a mother and a daughter with a new business. And so I like to get to know them first before we, turn the camera on. And it was the first time her young daughter was interviewed. She just turned 12 today. And so just, getting to know them. I love people. I'm an outgoing individual. I like to learn more about who they are, their backgrounds, before we dive right into the interview. So I think that was a good example of just taking some time and then learning a little bit more about the business. I know what questions I'm going to ask, but I want to know more. I want to know more of the behind the scenes stuff.
And it certainly makes them feel more comfortable, but it also makes the interview more dynamic when you have that information. I think that's great. You can portray to the viewers what they might be interested in. Yeah. We have a minute left, Robyn. I'd love to spend that minute telling, maybe young folks who are interested in getting into a broadcasting career, who may aspire to do any number of the things that you have on your resume, give them some advice.
Well, first of all, get a good education. And now I guess you can major, you can, in broadcast journalism. And so go ahead. In my day, you didn't have that specific opportunity. So major in broadcast journalism, and then you just have to dive in. And you probably have to dive in behind the scenes first with a camera, or producing, or writing, or whatever. So you just take those opportunities and just jump in, have a strong work ethic, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of, I didn't know anything about weather. I didn't know anything about criminal justice or hospitals or whatever. But as you have that good foundation of education, and then be a people person, care about the individuals that you're working with, and just go above and beyond every time, and you'll do great.
Yeah, and you sure are a people person. That just radiates out of you at every interview and interaction. Robyn, you're such a good sport to do this for us today. Thank you for being my guest on your show. It was a treat.
Well, and you're going to be hosting next week on Talk of the Town from me.
Thank you. I'll be your guest host next week. From Robyn Zimmerman and Jessa Jeremiah, we'll be back next time with Talk of the Town.